It is time, once again, to lock your doors, shut your windows, strap yourself into your favorite comfy chair, and tune out and tune into The Naked Zombie.
G'day and welcome to another thrilling episode of The Naked Zombie. I'm your host Brad Scott. Now tonight on the show that deals with everything from pop culture to the paranormal and everything in between, we are going to talk to Nicky Myers. Now we're going to talk about something that I've always found very interesting within the paranormal field, which is near-death experiences. Now, before I introduce Nicky into the show tonight, I'll just sort of touch base on something very, very quickly when it comes to this. When I was a young bloke, I think I was about 8, something like that. I had I actually drowned, and I woke up with my father basically dragging me out of the water. But I didn't have the experiences that Nicky has had and what we're going to talk about tonight. My experiences were very sort of blank, and probably because of my age. But a lot of weird different things did happen after that. So please welcome to The Naked Zombie, Nicky Myers. G'day, Nicky. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you, Brad. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no. Look, I've been meaning to do this for the last month or so now, to have Nicky on talking about near-death experiences. Now, Nicky, just quickly before we get start right into the whole what you experienced, can you tell us what was the lead-up to your near-death experience?
It was coming up to about 4 years ago, actually, in the 14th of October. I was ironing. I'd had a pretty hectic day at work. I'd just started a reasonably new business, so she wasn't even 12 months old, working really, really long hours, had a little baby. Diesel was only 18 months old at the time. So life was pretty chaotic. Craig was also recovering from a truck accident at the time that he'd had, so he was getting really bad migraines, and so it was all pretty full on. And this particular evening, was just the usual chaos, at home with the family, dinner and all of that. There was, I went outside with Craig, and we were both hit by a vehicle. It was a hit-and-run accident that occurred in our street outside my home. So 1 minute I'm ironing, being a mum, and next minute I was lying on the road in front of my house, thinking I was going to die. And that's pretty much what happened. It was obviously evening, and a light rain had started to fall. I had quite horrific and substantial injuries, internal bleeding as well. My right femur had come out of my leg. My right leg was actually all the way over the top of my head. The position I've been trying to get into for yoga for years, but there you go. It took something like that for me to master it. And my right shoulder was actually sitting on my left shoulder. I was in a bit of a mess. I actually thought I'd lost my right foot at one stage because I couldn't feel it any further, and I had that thought of, damn, I should have worn my good underwear. But, listen to your mother.
Yes, yes.
There was amazing amount of things that went through at that moment. My next-door neighbour had come out, and I could tell by the look on his face that it wasn't good. Jace is a bit of a boy's boy, a hunter, he's a builder and all that sort of stuff. So he's seen some manic things. My mangled body probably wasn't what he was expecting to see that night, considering I'd only been chatting to him moments beforehand. It's amazing at that. I was in and out of consciousness. I was actually run over twice, and saw the vehicle coming back the second time. I didn't know where Craig was. He was actually also hit, and he was on the other side of the road. But my 11-year-old was running out of the house, and I, actually thought, my God, he's actually going to see me die tonight. So my first concern was for him to stop him running out to me because I could see the vehicle still in the area. And then it came over, and so again I was sort of in and out of consciousness. in that time frame. When I came to, I remember being really systematic in my head about what needed to be done. I had, Rocco was going away on a school camp, and I had money in an envelope, sitting on the microwave. I'd signed the forms. I was telling the neighbours how long Diesel's bottle needed to be in the microwave for, get my phone, cancel appointments, who to call, let my brother know, let my work colleagues know I wouldn't probably be in tomorrow. And they were all sort of saying, no, don't talk. But I had this overwhelming urgency to just get stuff out, I just wanted to make sure that everything that I had in my head, particularly where the boys were concerned, was out, so, that they would be looked after in the event that I possibly didn't make it. And I guess if I was ever put in that predicament where somebody else was in that, opposite to me, I would let them speak, because you just need to get this stuff out, After I was able to rattle off all my list of to-do things, I felt a lot better. And my brother had arrived, and I remember looking at his face and saying to the Ambos, I may be positive, so is my brother, so if I need a blood transfusion, ask him.
Yep.
It's amazing the most ridiculous things that go through your head. And that was one of the last things I remembered before I actually left my physical body. The pain was excruciating beyond belief. And a light rain had started to fall, and the sky looked so pretty, Brad. And I thought, you know what? I'm never going to have this feeling again. I'm never going to feel the rain or see the stars. And I couldn't see the moon that night, and I was really concerned. And I thought, oh, God, I was trying to work out what time it was, because it was coming up to full moon, and I was trying to place it in the sky, and I couldn't kind of see it. And then the noise around, the police were there, the ambulance were there, there was, the neighbours in the street. It was all chaotic, and I remember I couldn't hear my dogs bark. I have a German Shepherd, and normally she would, be going ballistic if anyone was near the house or the car, and, all of that sort of stuff, and she was really quiet, and I thought, well, that's probably not a really good sign either. So all that chaos and all that noise just dissipated, as did the pain. And the next thing I recall was just looking down at the scene. And it's probably very classic NDE, where you can see, well, I saw my body, I saw what was going on, people trying to sort of revive, and watching Craig. I couldn't see my son at that stage because they were both inside. Dizzle was asleep in his room, and Rocco was across the neighbours, and turning around and seeing my grandfather, who has been passed for some time, my dad's dad. I was then bathed in the most beautiful bluey white light. There was a tunnel. There is a classic tunnel, but they were huge, big pine trees, in my case, that actually went to the tunnel. There was lots of other spiritual beings there that I knew, but I couldn't see their faces clearly. I just knew that I knew them, my grandfather being the most prominent. I actually also recall looking for Elvis. I'm a big Elvis fan, Brad, and I know this sounds bizarre. I really did. I honestly thought he was going to be there. Very disappointed that he didn't make the effort.
No, I'm sorry to tell you, Nicky, he's not actually dead.
He's not actually dead.
No, he's working at a I think it's like a 7-Eleven. In New Mexico or somewhere like that at the moment. Now, just quickly, Nicky, when you, and I know this is quite emotional, I can actually hear it in your voice, which is totally understandable. And I'm going to take you back a bit here now, this is mainly for the listeners to build up to what the experience was. Now, you said it was a hit and run. Now, and you said the car actually came back towards you.
Yeah, it had reversed. So the only way out of our street, we lived in a cul-de-sac. Sorry, Brad, I should have been more specific.
Right.
Was out pretty much where, past me. But instead of going past me actually went over the top of me instead, which is why I don't call it an accident so much as an incident, particularly the second part of it. Yes, I did know who did it. That was the other thing, which is quite been quite difficult to deal with.
You don't you don't suppose it was an accident though, wasn't it? It wasn't a. Well, they must. I mean, especially going in a cul-de-sac, you wouldn't want to be going too fast, would you?
No, you wouldn't. No, that's correct. But when he was leaving the scene, yes, he was going at quite a distance.
Oh, I can imagine, yes.
Quite a speed, I should say, in the short space of that he had to actually exit the street. So that's kind of the very basic background of it.
So when you were we've got the scenario where you're hit by the car, you got hit a second time as you was reversing, basically to get away by the sounds of it. Now, when you were lying there and you're running through your head everything that was going on, you're thinking about your family, things that had to be done, and this could be, in fact, your last night on Earth, as it were. Did you notice yourself actually drifting in and out of... See, I've read a lot of cases, and I've spoken to a lot of people over the years, that they actually have moments where they're sort of not quite out of their bodies, if you know what I mean. They sort of drift in and out. But were you like sort of out of your body at that stage where you sort of done everything you had to do? You told everyone to do certain things and make sure yada, yada, yada. When you physically left your body and you're looking down upon yourself, was there moments of thinking, well, do you want to go back, or your mindset was, well, this is it, so to speak?
Well, yeah. When I blurted out all my mundane stuff, I actually felt the panic dissipate, and I actually felt quite peaceful. I've told what I could, under the circumstances, and I could feel the blood in my mouth, which is one of the reasons I actually spoke about the blood transfusion, because I knew I was bleeding there, and I knew I was bleeding elsewhere, but, I could taste it in my mouth. After that urgency of getting everything out that I needed to, and making sure everyone that I knew needed to know things were aware, it was just this peaceful emotion that totally washed over me, with the falling of the rain as well. The sound of everything dissipated. And then I could just feel like it was a lightning. The pain started to ease, and there was a total lightness. I wasn't feeling that pain anymore, which was pretty intense. And when I saw my grandfather, and I actually was trying to look past him, because the light was so bright beyond his silhouette and beyond the others that were there. And he kept trying to block it, block me looking past him. We had quite a conversation, some of which I didn't recall straight away, and there's bits that I'm still remembering from that. We don't get to choose how we're going to die or when. No. We can only decide how we're going to live, and being in the now. And there was this thing about my life, looking back on my life and what had happened and what had occurred, and it was just like watching a movie. And he ultimately told me that it wasn't my time, and that I had to go back. There was other things that I needed to do, and I didn't want to. Because I could see what I was going to be in for. I actually was privileged enough to see what life would be like for my family without me. And it wasn't my destiny at that point. I mean, and I totally believe that there is no accident. There's always a reason for everything, and people talk about, your karma going forward, but every day we live our karma. One debt's paid off and something else occurs, you're in credit for something else. It's constant. It's not something that you always look forward to. I didn't want to come back, Brad. It was really, really difficult to do that. because I didn't think I had it in me to survive, because I saw a glimpse of what I had to do to get better. And it wasn't, it was tough work being in a physical body. But I made that choice when I incarnated this life. I made that choice to live. So, again, I had to make a very conscious decision to live again. And that's what I did for my children's sake, and for my husband, and, and ultimately for me, because that's not how it was supposed to be.
When you actually, sorry, Nicky, just a question. So, when you were sort of floating above, and okay, you're past your body, I guess you've moved into the other plane. I mean, I'm generalising this for people, different cultures. When you moved into the next realm, as it or plane of existence, as it were, and you had your grandfather there, and he was basically saying, look, it's not your time. You got to go back. You got to go back. What was the attraction about staying? What was the thing that wanted you to stay? I mean, I'm not judging anybody, because I've known people, like my grandmother went through it when she went through a windscreen of a car. My mother went through it when we nearly lost her with a brain hemorrhage. What was your reasoning to say, no, look, this mortal coil is not going to work for me now. It's too badly damaged. I don't want to go through the pain. I don't want to don't want to put my family through this. Was that the sort of the thing that you're looking at, or were you sort of thinking, no, there's more to this, I want to experience more in the afterlife, if you know what I mean?
It was the feeling of coming home.
Yeah.
Right? And regardless of, I think, race or religion, I think there's a common experience of us NDEs. There's a feeling of peace in separating from the body, which remains behind, as we as I floated through the tunnel towards the distant light. And I know that sounds very cliched, but there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of records.
Hundreds of thousands of records of people that cross. The white light is mentioned, and this could also be considered as part of when people go out and just sidetrack a little bit, go on investigations, how they surround themselves in the white light. Is that the same sort of light we're talking about, or is it totally different?
It's so bright, it's blue, and it's so intense, and it's so beautiful. It's incredibly peaceful, and when coming back, it was done very reluctantly. I probably lost all fear of death that I might have had prior to it. I mean, I always embraced the idea of reincarnation, but even more so now after that experience. It's hard to. It's just such an emotional experience that even coming back to the physical, it's been difficult to reconnect. Kind of feel a bit out of place, and what now after remembering what home is like, and that's exactly the way to describe it. It was just like going home. But without that heaviness of your body, that physical constraint, the mundane, all the stuff that goes through your head, everything that we all have to do to get through day by day. There was none of that. Absolutely none of it. There was no real emotion except happiness, and we all crave happiness. It's a very funny word. Everyone bandies it about, but to find true happiness, there's moments you could probably count on one hand where you just feel so carefree, like swinging on a swing when you were a kid, and not a care in the world. And,
I mean, that's the beauty of youth, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. It's, we lose all of that as we get older, and being there with my grandfather and whom, I was incredibly close to, and I've been closer to him since he passed, actually, unfortunately, and hearing what he had to say, and him showing me the story, and, my children, which was the clincher. And the fact that I knew that I would recover because I'd seen that, but I'd also seen the journey into that recovery. he did tell me that I wouldn't recall all of it, that it would, it would come to me as I needed, which is probably the case, as it's happened. What can I say? I mean, life isn't pleasant. I mean, death is peaceful, and sometimes it's the transition in between that's the troublesome, right?
I've always been curious about this side of it. Like, I had my own experience when I was a young bloke. I basically went swimming in a waterhole with my family. I got stuck on an unsubmerged tree. I went under. I don't know whether it was my age, but I don't remember much about it. All I remember is basically my dad performing CPR, and I sort of I come to. I didn't have the luxury of having that white light or any of that. I have no memory of my experience in that sense. Now, this is another question: is when you saw your grandfather, did he appear to you as the same as when he passed, or what you remembered him to be, or did he look different? Did he look older, younger?
Yeah.
Type
No,
thing?
he was like I last saw him, which was a few years before he passed. And it was just so great to be able to see him, and he looked well, and he was sprightly even at 80. So, he had amazing hands, and even though I couldn't see his face quite clearly sometimes because the light behind was so bright, he had gorgeous chubby cheeks. So I knew when he was smiling, I could see the definition in his cheeks, and just the total sense of knowing it was him, undoubtedly, and the fact that there were others there that I couldn't recognise, but I knew them. Family, friends, whatever. I just knew I was home, and I was safe, and it was incredibly beautiful, incredibly peaceful, and how fortunate I was just to have that relief from the pain. But I had to go back, and I had limited time in which to do it. So that's what I did.
It was a time factor. This is another thing I've always been interested about. Well, the case studies I've read and spoken to people about, the time frame seems to be the same. It's like you leave your body, and literally time is the same in that sense while you're in that transition period, whether you're going back or going to. Did you find that experience as well, or did time seem to drag on for you, or was it sort of like it seemed longer you were out of your body than it actually was?
Yeah, because time is linear for us here on the earth plane. Time in the afterlife is not as we know it. So I felt I was there for a lot longer than what I actually was, from my understanding. Everything that was said and I was shown, for me it could have been, at least an hour, but clearly it wasn't. No, I certainly wasn't physically gone for an hour, but at least, and I was really quite surprised at the time frame, because we lost it. It's like, when you hear about UFOs and you lose time.
Yes.
That's exactly what it was like. Just, he was very conscious of the time and leading me back. But I had no idea of what that was, or the urgency. So I reluctantly, decided to return to my pain-ravaged body.
Now, when your grandfather was leading you back, I guess that's what he did. He was actually taking you back.
Yeah.
Was there contact? Like you could touch him? Could you smell his? I know like people have certain aromas. Was that all there? Could you actually physically touch and stuff?
It was, Brad. It was just so real that I can still remember how his hand felt.
Yeah.
And the way he spoke, and he had an accent. He lived in India all his life, so he had a bit of an accent. That accent of his, the warmth from him, and remarkably for me, I was actually standing. I was well because I didn't have the body. I was standing, and I didn't have any of that disfigurement or anything like that. So when I'm sort of looking down and seeing all the chaos down there, and just seeing my body and thinking, oh my God, how on earth can I possibly manage to get back into that, and not feel the pain, and particularly after feeling the lightness of where I had been, it was really tough. And I totally get why people don't come back. I totally get it.
Yeah, they always say that your job's not quite over till it's over. And I've heard that many, many times, where the people have been very reluctant to come back. But in a nutshell, it's not your time. You have to deal with it as it happens. Now, so you're looking at your body, so you're given a bit of a timeline as well for what your future held for you. And what you're experiencing. And you had two options, didn't you? You had life without you and life with you. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to go for a quick commercial break right now on The Naked Zombie, and we're going to come back with Nicky Myers after this quick commercial break, and we're talking about near-death experiences. Join us back after this short break.
I'll get it. Dude, dig the zombie motif. Dude, you're going to the 2012 zombie walk? We're here in Brisbane, and in aid of the Brain Foundation of Australia. Dude, I'm there. By the way, can you stop chewing on me now? Sorry.
That's right, Zombie and Zombettes, the 2012 Brisbane Zombie Walk in aid of the Brown Foundation of Australia. Come and join us on the 21st of October 2012 at Victoria Park for a fun-filled day of fun and excitement in scaring the locals. For more details, go to www.brisbanezombiewalk.com.
Are you looking for some really good equipment in your next ghost hunt? Then look no further than the Ghost Shack, based right here in Australia. The Ghost Shack can offer you everything from the millimeter, EMF detectors, cameras, illuminator, brackets, spirit box, and of course voice recorders. All you got to do is go to Facebook and type in Ghost Shack for all your paranormal needs. And we are back on The Naked Zombie. Now, we're doing something a little bit different tonight. Instead of me carrying on like a loose Arab on most of the shows that I do, we are talking about near-death experience. And we have Nicky Myers on the line tonight talking to us on The Naked Zombie. Now, Nicky, the events that happened to you and you were brought back into your body, your grandfather led you back into your body was pretty badly busted up by all pretty much it was, by all sounds of it, because, you hit twice by a car.
Yeah.
Just touching base quickly with Craig, he was also hit by the car. Did he experience anything as well? Like, did he actually feel your presence leave or anything like that? Or was he aware of the fact what was going on?
No, at that point, the AMBOs were working on me, so he wasn't aware. He had been, when he actually made his way over, I was still coming in and out of consciousness, but he had to be dragged away. He needed to be attended to as well. He had some injuries that needed attending, but they needed to get to me. They actually had to bring my leg down, and straighten it before they could put me in the ambulance. And that was quite horrific, and they didn't want, obviously, anyone to see doing that. And I do remember passing out with that particular...
Yes, I can't even imagine, to be honest with you, mate. I really couldn't even imagine the sensation. But
he wasn't... he knew that he knew that something had gone on because of how the AMBOs were reacting. But he didn't realise that I'd actually had left at that stage and then come back. He didn't realise how critical it actually was.
Now, what we also did in the commercial break, we had a bit of a chat about the crisis apparition. Now, I take it for people who don't know what a crisis apparition is. A crisis apparition, to me, is when you leave your physical plane and you go and basically attend to people that you know and let them know that, even by image, that you're no longer with us. Is that basically what happened? You were just trying to catch up with people that weren't there?
Yeah, well, it was actually during, I was actually being operated on, and it was I was in surgery for some ridiculous amount of time, about 15 hours, the first lot of surgery, and Craig had gone home, and he was sleeping on the lounge. We had a formal lounge room, conversation room as I called it.
Mm-hmm.
He was sleeping on the lounge there, and opposite the lounge are the two chairs, great big huge wing chairs. And he suddenly woke because he felt that he was being watched. And he got up and he turned around and he saw me sitting in the chair. And his first thought was that I had passed. So he said I lasted for a few minutes, and I looked a few seconds probably, looked well, and I did ask him how was my hair, and he said it was out and big, and I said, well, that's great. Glad I did my hair before I came to visit. And he'd never seen the dress that I had on, and he didn't believe I had shoes on because he remembered noting that because I love my shoes, Brad. So that was really odd that I'd be prancing around without shoes.
Elder Marcos in the making, eh?
But I was fascinated to know how I actually appeared to him,
Yep.
He immediately got up and rang the hospital to see what was going on, and I was still in surgery. And he was quite adamant that, that I had passed at that stage. I'd also appeared to my aunt who lived some miles away as well, but she just saw my face, and she thought the same. From our research, we understand that crisis apparitions usually mean that the person will actually end up living, which is a really good thing. And it's the soul's way of just checking on, how our loved ones are doing. And it's just like a sign that we're doing okay. How are you doing? And I'm sure I would have checked on the children and my mum and, whoever else that's close to me. But the fact that he and my aunt actually saw the same thing at the same time, that was
At
the
the
other
same
interesting
time,
thing.
wow.
It was all about the same time.
Yep.
I'll get around.
Oh, quick too, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, was fascinating, and we didn't find that out till much later on either. So it was around that. I think he said it was early hours of the morning, so dawn was just about breaking. Around that time, which is why he could sort of see me clearly through the lounge room windows. The light was filtering through. So that was really interesting.
Well, that's amazing. So you've projected yourself to your loved ones. You're in surgery. They basically had to patch you back together from a horrific incident. When you came out of surgery and you're starting to regain your, you're starting to be aware of your surroundings and stuff like this, did you have recognition straight away of what you'd been through, as in you remembered leaving your body, remember seeing your grandfather, or did that come later on?
That came later on. Because of all the drugs that I was on for a long time, it was really hard to kind of make out what was real and what was not real.
Yep.
Even in the hospital, I had a lot of experiences which I'm 100% sure were paranormal, but didn't want to say anything to anyone because they would have thought, right, it's just the morphine talking.
Yeah, kicking in, I can tell you a few morphine stories of my time too.
My other grandfather, my mum's mum, was a doctor and a colonel in the British Indian Army, and I remember praying to him, and making sure that he would come forward to help me heal, and I remember getting very angry with him because I was feeling the pain and I expected him to take all that away, which was really unfair. But we have high expectations of our loved ones on the other side, don't we?
Yes, we do. But I mean, I remember a classic exam. I'm just trying to compare different areas, scenarios that people have had, and I can't really speak from my own experience. There was it was only about 3 years ago. I was living in New Zealand, and it was here actually in Australia. I actually had a mild heart attack at the age of 39.
Wow.
And it was the most excruciating pain I've ever been in. And my ambulance trip involved me thinking, same thing, that's it. I fought it the whole way. My wife ended up ringing the ambulance at 3 o'clock in the morning because I had severe chest pains, and which does happen to people my age. Mind you, I was a lot bigger than what I am now. I really didn't look after myself. But that night, and I don't know if you experienced this, I'm curious to see if you did, but I was pretty doped to the eyeballs on morphine. I was hooked up to heart monitors and all. I had everything happening, everything that went ping was attached to me.
Yep.
But I remember the next day clear as anything. There was actually people walking around the hospital that I knew but had passed on. I sort of in between in and out of consciousness because of the morphine. I just kept wanting to sleep. But every time I opened my eyes, I would see someone standing in the room that I knew that passed on, or I'd see someone walk past. And there seemed to be a lot of people like that. But as I got better over a couple of days, and everything sort of went back to normal, I had that whole... They started disappearing, that they weren't as regular, they weren't as thing. When you were going through the recovery side, and this is where I'm going with this, did you have that experience as well, where you actually seen people that weren't really not meant to be there?
Yeah, I did, Brad. And it's fascinating to listen to you say that as well. My grandmother, who, the Colonel's wife, she was an amazing woman, and I was constantly seeing my nana, and she hasn't been passed long, smelling her, feeling her touch, and saying to her, well, where the hell is Grandpa? He should be, he's the doctor. Where the hell is he? But her presence was just amazing. And, her perfume, she had a very distinctive perfume, and mannerisms. We had a cook whom I just loved and adored in India to pieces, who's on the other side. He was there. And I remember thinking, oh, my God, he must be mortified at my cooking abilities, right? Because I often talk to him and say, well, please, I wish you were here to help, or,
is this the right spice to use?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, there was a sense of always... there was just a sense of there was always people in the room, whether physically or not. It was crowded. It just,
very crowded,
I never
isn't
ever
it?
felt alone. Yeah, never felt alone at all. The nurses would actually comment. They'd come and check because they would think they were hearing people in the room, or things like that, and there was nobody there. It clearly wasn't me jumping around. So I thought, all right, that's pretty cool. But again, like you, I didn't know if it was the morphine or, because it was so real.
God, I was doped to the eyeballs. Seriously, I had a drip in, mate, and it was pumping me full of it. And that's also I've always found interesting, the experiences. And there's a photo of me I've got laying in a hospital bed, hooked up to everything you can imagine. And I was a lot heavier back then too. I was a big boy, so it was that whole thing of, my health wasn't that great back those days. I'm a lot better now, but that experience changed me, if you know what I mean. That one experience happened when I was 30, 38, 39, something like that. That whole experience changed my perception on a lot of things, especially within the paranormal field. Being a paranormal investigator yourself, and you'd probably understand this, when you saw people around you and you knew you're going to recover, you knew everything was going to be fine, did you look at life a lot differently? Did you look at the fact that, hey, well, we're here for a good time, not a long time, let's make the most out of things? Did you have the same sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, that same sort of like get smacked in the head and go, wow, well, this is, this could have been over right now? I
think I went through the 7 stages of grief. Which I didn't know, and until probably a couple of years after did I actually click on that's what was going on. You've got the shock and the denial, which is stage 1. So that's to do with both being back in the physical as well, and pretty much regretting every day that you made that choice to come back, because it's bloody hard work.
No, it is.
You've got the pain and the guilt that follows on with that. Guilty for feeling that you don't want to be here, that there is somewhere else that you would rather be. Then I became quite angry. Once the physical started to heal, and I actually had time to kind of look at the mind and the soul. Why did I not see it coming? And then why me? And then why don't I fit in anymore? I felt like an answer my pants kind of thing. I couldn't settle. I
Yeah.
just didn't feel right being back in my skin or my life, or everything just was, people listening to people talk or whinge or complain, and I just thought, you've got to be kidding yourself. Right?
That's why I get grumpy on the show occasionally.
No, I totally get it.
When people are having a suck about something. Yeah.
So much more, and we're just reduced to these, we're such great spiritual beings, and we're just reduced to this, these pathetic people, right?
Meat bags with basically that's all we are.
Yeah. Then came the depression and, the reflection and the loneliness, because, I missed seeing my family. And I'm talking about my spiritual family, all those people that had, like you were able to see and converse with.
But the thing is, I'm not a spiritual guy at all. I mean, I'm about as spiritual as a fence post. So I've got no... Like, I swear if I walked into a church, the roof would cave in. Because I'm not that way. I never have been. But in saying that, when I went through what I did a few years ago, but I didn't have the near-death... I was close, but I didn't actually pass away. But I had all the symptoms of dropping off the twig. Yeah. But when
it's like an epiphany, isn't it?
It is an epiphany, and I went, well, I found the same thing. I've talked about depression that on the show before and how I went through it as well. So because you go, well, what have I done with my life? I'm turning 40 years of age. I've got, this and this. I fix forklifts or what. God, I have a boring existence. So, and I guess that's the same as you in that sense, Nick. And that's what people who go through, even the mold thing, what I went through, like you went something through totally horrific. I don't know if I could come back in that sense. If I saw a mangled mess, I honestly, I think in that sense, I would find it hard to come back. If I was given the opportunity, I'd fight tooth and nail probably not to come back, because I don't know how I would have handled it. So I give you kudos for, you're tougher than me in that sense. But having the whole experience, and this is where people who go through this near-death experiences or go through something that changes their life, you tend to fight more too, don't you? You tend to stand up and be heard more, because you're sort of, why should I take crap from you when I know what I'm doing is right? You find your whole perception of your life now has changed.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's never been the same since that point. It was never going to be, but the actual NDE has brought a whole new dimension to it. And it really sort of woke me up to my spiritual path anyway. And I had let that slide, admittedly, in the few years leading up to it. What with starting a new business, a young family, all of those sort of things. I didn't have time for me, and I didn't have time for my own growth.
Yep.
I was too busy worrying about everybody else.
Yes.
And what I thought was important was nowhere near as important as the other stuff. And I've got quite a different attitude on, I'm a bit more laid back. I am a perfectionist, and I still struggle with that a little bit, but I've relaxed in a lot of ways. I give myself more time, because if I'm a calmer, better person, then I can be that to the ones that I love and adore. Being able to help people probably has been one of the greatest things that came out of it, and knowing without a shadow of doubt that there is life after life. It isn't life after death.
Yep.
It's definitely life after life.
That's always been one of the, it's that whole thing of, it's hard for, I guess, people like myself who've actually gone through the extent what you went through. And you got to see and experience everything that's involved in the white light, seeing loved ones, having the choice to come back or not. And I guess when someone's time's up, it's up, and they just go. They move on. And it is comforting to know, even for someone like me who isn't a spiritual guy, that goes, well, I've always wondered, will I end up as worm food, or will I end up moving on and transition into others? So it's very complicated, at the same time to think, where, is this it? Is this the whole reason I'm here? It's just you get this little lot on a bit of little short time. Now, when you spoke to your grandfather,
sorry, the NDE. I mean, it's like a rebirth in many ways, Brad. And we can take that opportunity and really embrace it, or we can just bury our heads and pretend it didn't happen and just go back doing what we want to do because we can't be bothered thinking about it, and that's where you've obviously thought about it too, even though you're not.
Yeah, I did. I got fit. I lost the weight. I watched what I ate because I really, to be honest with you, I was nearly 120 kilos. I'm lucky to weigh 90 now, but that's the thing. It was, for me as a personal thing, it was a wake up call saying, wow, I want to see my kids finish high school and get married. I want to see my grandkids, and I want to do something with my life. And believe it or not, the zombie comes from that, a lot of that, because I wanted to do something that made a difference in someone's life, or someone enjoyed. Like I said, I'm mad as a half-cut snake half the time because I believe in having fun with what I do. I can be serious when I need to, and I get on my high horse when I want to. But speaking to you regarding this near-death experience and the little things that I went through when I had my heart thingy, how similar they are in some aspects. I'd love to hear from other people as well who had near-death experience, who listen to the show, and send me emails and everything, and let me know if you went through the similar thing. So your grandfather's brought you back and all the rest of it,
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, while most people, I've spoken through too as well, over the years have a belief in some form of life after death. It also seems amazing that there are so many others who believe absolutely nothing happens after our physical body dies. And they appear quite happy to accept that after dying, the lights simply go out and we can completely cease to exist in any such way.
Yeah, we only really, and that's essentially only exist in people's memories. Unless you've done something really famous and cool, you eventually just become a name on a tombstone, so to speak.
Yeah, what we refer to as death is simply the separation of the soul from the body, right? Or the soul, which is essentially energy, is like a power source for the physical frame it occupies during life. So when that power source separates from its body, the soul is freed from its physical limitations and all the pain. So where does it go to when it's cut loose then?
Well, that's the thing. If you head this towards the white light, and I've never actually spoken to anyone who's gotten past the white light and come back, if you know what I mean. Someone who was clinically died, like literally dead, and actually went past that sort of stage where, and 99% of the people I've spoken to have had some sort of experience, and I find this fascinating, had some sort of experience where someone has either said to them, it's not your time, it's not your moment, type thing, and they basically get pushed back in a way. They're actually led or pushed or off you go, your time's not quite yet. So it always fascinates me, and look, there are a lot of mediums and psychics out there who will touch on the whole that side of it, how they can reach people from the dead and all the rest of it. Did you find that when you went through yours, you're talking spiritually now a little bit here, and what happens is, did you find that your senses were sort of more open?
Yes.
It's sort of like something switched in your brain, and then you got this whole thing of going, okay, I'm picking up stuff like an FM radio station. Did you go through that?
Yeah, I did actually. Before, and I always knew I was. I thought I had a great intuition. Right, that's how I would describe it. I'd follow my gut, but it was clearly something else, right? And I'd kind of moved away from a lot of that in the few years leading up to it. And like you suddenly go, well, hang on, what am I doing? Look at my age. What have I achieved? What am I meant to be doing? I've really gone right off my path. And I really got annoyed because I didn't see my intuition didn't warn me of any of this coming forward, and being a control freak, I like to plan everything,
People reckon I'm just anal.
And this was not in my agenda, right?
No.
but I couldn't control this, and I couldn't control that it had happened, and I couldn't control any of this. It was just out of control. I had to learn to accept people's help, right, which was really difficult for me because I'd never done that.
Mm-hmm.
I had no choice but to let people help.
Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
I mean, it does. It does. I became a lot more gratitude. It took a long time to build up my intuition again, or that sixth sense, whatever you want to call it, because I was so annoyed and angry and hurt, and I was like a sulky child. I didn't want to be here. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to play anymore. Right? I was in pain. My life wasn't the way it was before, and I was just pissed off, really. And I was like that pretty much for about 3 years, and not really aware of it either. I just, I didn't fit in. It didn't feel right.
You got to think about what you went through. You went through something totally horrific, and you are allowed. And I'm sorry, but you are allowed to be a little bit selfish when it comes to the way you feel after such a major event, and it does take time. I mean, I was a cranky bugger to start with, and I got worse there for a while afterwards because I was pissed off with everything and the way things had turned out. But I guess in hindsight, and like yourself, after that period of time passes, you go, well, it's not too bad. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff I actually have done. There's a lot of stuff I've achieved, and now I've still got the opportunity to continue achieving. And after the incident and stuff, did you find that as well? Because look, I know you guys are doing a hell of a lot, and while I'm here, I better give it a plug. Come on, give it a plug. I do it every week on the show.
When Darkness Falls in India, have you seen the latest interview with Craig and I? Yeah, Attila did such an amazing job with it. Yeah. Well, look, we're still plodding along with that. I mean, you were talking about Naked Zombie being birthed from your experience, and Whisper came from ours.
Yeah.
So a lot of things my grandfather said to me, and look, and you would have been told stuff too that you consciously don't recall, but you're acting on it, and your gut will tell you that, your intuition, whatever you want to, your angels, whatever you want to say, when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, and you get that sense of that white light, that peace, that happiness, that creative joy that we all got that glimpse of for a bit.
It's interesting, isn't it, how people's perception comes to that after an experience. Like I said, mine was nothing like what you went through. Trust me, absolutely nothing from what. All I did, I just had a joyful ride in an ambulance, thinking that was it. For a week there, I was in intensive care, then friggin' in the cardiac ward and all the rest of it. Yeah, it scared the crap out of me. I won't lie to you. It scared me shitless, and because I was going in and out of consciousness, I wasn't to the point where I was going to die. Not that don't know, but
you don't know.
The pain was that intense. I would literally pass out, and I think every time I pass out, and I wake up and think, "Oh God, what happened there?" type thing. So unless within that period I was given messages to start doing more, I don't know. I just got no recollection about the moments that I wasn't with it.
Right. Okay. Well, that's your memory, your conscious memory of it.
That's because I'm a cranky bugger.
I mean, recovery takes place, essentially through spiritual healing. We don't realise, but I mean, they work over time. With energetic, magnetic counselling, all that sort of stuff on the other side, to make us well again and to live our lives the way we should be, and we should honour that, and do the right thing. I mean, ultimately, and be happy. I mean, ultimately, be that joyful, that memory of when we did go home, create that here, because we are only here for a little while.
That's right.
And, so follow your dreams and, take ridiculous challenges and do all of those crazy things, because, tomorrow, a blink of an eye, your whole life will change, as you and I know. Something totally unplanned. And, next minute you're just thinking, my God, look at my to-do list. I've done none of it at all.
The bucket
and that's
list.
the really scary thing. That's exactly
I mean,
right.
it's not a silly thing to go through. Your bucket list changes as you get older and you want to do different things, experience different things. But out of all this, look, we're just about come up to the hour, hey? I tell you what, it's just absolutely it's just flown. Nicky, in hindsight, to everything that you experienced and everything that you went through regarding your experiences with near death and all that, and I've got to get you back on the show because we haven't finished talking about this yet. If you're keen to, it's totally up to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think there's more to this than what, and I'm going to leave people hanging. In hindsight, your experience, in a nutshell, what was it like for you personally?
With no concept of earthly time in the afterlife, the duration that I spent in what I would probably say like a healing house was totally a sense of being home.
Yep.
It was as beautiful. Words don't describe the beauty of it, Brad, and I just don't do it justice. The serenity, the freedom, the peacefulness. I mean, it's okay when your loved ones pass because they're in a magnificent place. Yeah, it's us below that are selfish and grieve more so for us because we're going to miss them than for where they are. They are not alone. No one is ever born alone, and no one dies alone at all, even in tragic, horrific circumstances. The spirit world is totally aware of what is going on. I'm extremely lucky that I do recall a glimpse of home, and I really hope that I'm living up to, their expectations and mine that I've placed on myself since then, to live a good life, to do what is necessary, and just it's the simple things. Work can always wait. Getting down on the ground and running around with your kids, and they're the ones that are going to miss you terribly when you go. And they're the ones that you need to give your time to. All this other materialistic stuff, it's all irrelevant.
Yep.
What means the most is what you can put your arms around. Everything else you can replace. And you'll know that too in those few moments between living and dying, having a great house and a big car and doing this and great big huge TV. That doesn't mean a shit at all.
No, it doesn't.
It's all irrelevant. It's just all superficial happiness. So find your real inner happiness. Reach for your blue light and honestly create your heaven on earth. And make sure you just smile and laugh and don't take things too seriously because, you never know what's going to be around the corner and you don't want a wake-up call like that. You don't.
No.
And it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to talk about it because it is a difficult topic to talk about and people do feel hard, it's difficult to people talk about because you think, oh my God, I'm crazy, and coming to terms with it yourself that it is real is also quite a battle. So if other people have had experiences, by all means, contact you. We'd love to be able to
please.
get them to
No, contact the zombie. You know where to go to, www.naked-zombie-scott.com. And also, don't forget to check out what Whisper are up to with all sorts of stuff. And look, and Nicky, I'll get you stay on the line for a little longer. We'll talk after the show tonight for a couple of minutes.
All right, terrific.
But
thanks so much,
I would love to thank you very much, Nicky, for coming on the Naked Zombie tonight and sharing your experiences with the zombie audience. And it's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Thank you, Brad.
No worries. Well, you have just heard Nicky Myers talking about her near-death experience. And the thing is, if you had your own experience, please let me know about it. Whether it was positive, negative, you experienced anything or nothing at all, when you may have been a near-death experience, what you would have gone through. So you've been listening to Naked Zombie Radio. I'm Brad Scott, and like I say each week on the show, have a good night, have a safe night. If you're out investigating, please look after each other. Have a good night.